Good morning. It's Tuesday. We have a special guest, a regular here in studio, Dr. Aaron Chapa. He's going to be talking about health, nutrition, wellness. If you're joining us on Facebook, can you please share this out? Do it right now. Start a watch party. Let us know what questions you have. If you're going back and listening to this on YouTube or on Spotify, anywhere you can listen to a podcast, thank you. Go ahead and send this link to someone. You can also send me a text, 346-704-1806, if you have a question, and we can get that asked to Dr. Chapa as well. So Dr. Chapa's here hanging out. I'm excited that he's here. He saved my life yesterday, and I'm very appreciative of that. He squeezed me in. I was having some issues. I don't know what was going on with my body, but I had to call the expert. As soon as your office opened, and I called it before. I called it about like 8:30. The office doesn't open till 9. I was on the phone.
That's the way you do it, man. When you need what you need, you just get after it and get going. And thankful I am that we are, do our very best, especially, when people are in pain. I remember a time where I was what I would call probably one of my more serious injuries. I showed up on my buddy's doorstep at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was just like a little puppy scratching at his front door.
Please.
And texting, "Are you awake? Are you awake?" And he came to the door and goes, "What'd you do?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm in a bad place.
Yeah. On Sunday, my wife was like, text Dr. Chapa, call him. I said, he's closed. The office is closed. It's Sunday. I know he's with his family. And she was just like, well, just see, to let him know so that way you can maybe get squeezed in. I said, they'll if they can do it, they'll make it happen. I'm going to go first thing in the morning. Even if I just have to show up, they're like, we don't have any availability. Well,
I'll wait in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'll be here. I need my answer.
Yes, man. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad everybody's tuned in with us. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. It's been absolutely, they said it was going to be a crazy rainy weekend, and it turned out to be a gorgeous weekend. I mean, yeah, we had rain, but my goodness, we also had some great, beautiful sunshine and some good, beautiful skies. So that kind of stuff just makes my heart sing, man. I love it. I love it.
Did you spend some time with the family outside?
I did, yeah. Me and my daughter, tinkered around on the trampoline, my littlest one, and my olders were out riding bikes and doing what they do, and so it was really nice, especially Sunday afternoon, and so wish every day was like that. Every day's a holiday on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
well, I'm glad that you're here today. What are we going to be talking about? What's the topic today?
So we're finishing up our sleep and our mental health talk. From that we've been working on this month, and it's just so vitally important that people recognize and realize that the body needs sleep in order to rest, recover, repair, and interestingly enough, the body needs sleep in order to maximize mental health changes. They've done studies and found that our cognitive repair status goes down drastically whenever sleep is deprived, or whether voluntary or involuntary. So not only do you feel just the feeling of tired, you also find the symptoms come. Mental clarity changes. Your response time is less. They've estimated that some people could even be they could be statistically drinking and driving at the equivalent of being sleep deprived. Or we talked about, week 1, about how if you miss 5 days of sleep, that you could pass a test for being like an Alzheimer's patient and have a such a mental decline where you'll begin hallucinating, you'll begin having major cognitive decline, where your ability to make decisions. And so think about it from a perspective of, if you're a boardroom executive and you've got a big meeting today, how did you sleep last night? And what are you going to do if you didn't sleep well? How are you going to get through that? Because your mental health state drops whenever your sleep is, low.
Before testing as a kid, I remember they'd always say that, make sure you eat a good breakfast and get a full night's sleep. You got the standardized testing or whatever it is the next day.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't realize how important sleep is, just try to go without it, and you'll start seeing rapidly your ability to recall and remember and to learn new skills just goes down just so drastically. And so tonight we're also going to be teaching a class on sleep and mental health. Jennifer and I have prepared for all of our Zoom calls, and it's really exciting. If you tune in to that event, you will, with a $25 purchase in our office, we'll be giving you a free bottle of Mintran. Mintran is multi-purpose. That's why we picked it. It has multiple facets, for not just sleep, but also just for mental breaks to calm the mind down so that the mind can be calm, cool, and collected during the day. Let's say that you did have a big event that day and you find yourself anxious in thought. If you use things like Mintran, you can calm the brakes of the brain, or you can pump the brakes of the brain and get your body to respond to the situations that you're being faced with in your challenges and struggles in your big event, as opposed to just react to everything. And so, we all have, been guilty of reacting negatively to a situation that probably just needed a better response. And maybe it was because of a lack of sleep. Maybe it was because of, just a negative attitude. So I think that, this conversation of mental health and sleep go really hand in hand, and they fit inside of the parameters of where we're at as society, where stresses are higher than ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really, helping people manage that stress and see that if you can get your stress to be managed more efficiently by taking care of your body, taking care of the things that you can control, because obviously there's things going on in our culture right now where we are out of control. Like we can't control all aspects of things happening to us and around us. So we can only control what we can. So you got to know what your part is to play, because it's your life, it's your health, it's your choice. And if you have symptom patterns that you were not genetically born with, it's something is wrong. Like we can address that. And anything that your body can develop, it will undevelop when given the right recipe. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we are always out to find the underlying cause of why your body's breaking down, what you've been doing that's been causing maybe some of these ailments to rise up, and things that you can do to start moving forward in a better health direction. And that's ultimately our underlying goal, is to be a puzzle solver in helping you analyze and find out where your body needs the most support. And a lot of times it's all directed. We do it to ourselves, self-inflicted, I mean. And so, we eat poorly, we skip too many meals, we eat too many stimulants, we get into too much processed food, junk food, carbohydrate foods, additives, alcohols, processed, this and that. And all of that stuff costs you health points. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. You got a health bank, and that's something that we've talked about in the past, and it's an interesting way of thinking about things that I hadn't until you had informed me how that is. It's like a bank. It's like money. If you have a reserve, or it's with food or anything like that, but it's the same way with your health. You can kind of store up the good things, so that way you have a little bit in your reserve, so whenever an attack comes on, you're able to fight it off.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And so I'm always trying to find. I'm fascinated with the ability to try to figure out how to explain health to people so that it is something that they can apply to their lives. And oftentimes we have been, I don't want to say brainwashed, miseducated, I think is a better word. We're being miseducated that a lot of health is blamed on genetics, your upline, so to speak, your blueprints. And it's not. Like, you are in more control than you realize. And if you follow a chocolate chip cookie recipe, you should get chocolate chip cookies on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
should.
But if you get something other than chocolate chip cookies, you have to question whether or not you followed the recipe correctly. And I find a lot of times that's just it. Is in our health, we all have a genetic blueprint. They call that a genotype. And that genotype is a blueprint of it's a blueprint of who we could be, but it also has potentials. Like, you have an expressive side called a phenotype, and that expressive side is what people actually see before them. So the way you manage that blueprint determines the output for which everybody in the world views and sees and interacts with. And so if you're negative, bitter, and cranky, then you're expressing aspects of your blueprint that might have a tendency to go that way, but it doesn't mean that you're doomed to be negative, bitter, and cranky. If you've got heart disease in your family, doesn't mean that you're doomed to have heart disease, but you could if you follow that same recipe. And a lot of times, genetic tendencies are familiar in nature because people never do what they want to do, I find. They just do what they know how to do.
Or they're taught, or they see, right?
That's absolutely right. And they always say that kids never do what you tell them. They're going to do what they see modeled before them.
So, my wife, who I love dearly, right? Her and her mom, they're a lot alike. So when it comes to like cooking or things they like or how they do their tea and everything else, and it's just funny. It's just funny to see. It's like, well,
that's the pattern.
Version 1, obviously there was grandma. That was version 1, version 2, version 3, and those are all things that are taught. So I know for you and your family, you want to be an example for health, for, hey, you don't have to eat, a bunch of grains and stuff for breakfast. You can eat a salad if you want to. You can have other things, and you're an example for them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I, and again, this is not to, brag or this is strictly for education.
Just brag, Dr. Chapa. Brag away. Let me hear it. I want this.
Well, so my son and I, in February, got into fasting, and we would take
He's 10. How old is he?
He's 11.
He's 11 now. Okay.
And so on every Monday in February we fasted, and then he said, hey, when's the next fast? And he was real proud of himself that he was able to do it, because I'm teaching him what fasting means and why we fast and the purpose of it via, Scripture, what the purpose of it via seeking God's counsel, the purpose of it, and just saying thank you to my body by giving it a day of rest, a true Sabbath in the body. Because even, when we take a Sabbath day, spiritually, Sunday is typically the Lord's day, right? We still eat. And a lot of times we overeat, right? We go to big, church celebrations and we eat things we shouldn't eat. And digestion is a hard process that's transpiring in your body. And so giving your body a break is an important thing. So we decided that the 15th of every month we're going to fast for the next several months. So this past, 15th, we had a fasting day, and it was an amazing experience to have with him. And
so one full day?
One full day. But I didn't know this because I didn't prep him. It kind of it just hit me. And it was real interesting because, God gives you confirmation whenever you're in his will and doing what he calls you to do. And it was so fascinating because not just me, but 3 of my other friends all decided to fast on the same day that we decided to fast. And so I go, wow, that's just crazy. And I said, all right, Lord, obviously there's something moving, something going on. What are we working on? And so when my son woke up that morning, he had a buddy stay over that night. And, I said, hey, Dash, come over here, And he comes over, and I whisper in his ear, and I said, hey, man, today's fasting day. And he goes, okay. Today's fasting
Even
day.
though there was a friend there and everything else?
That's right.
What was his friend kind of like? It's what?
Yeah, well, I didn't tell his
I'm
friend.
calling my mom, and she's going to come pick me up. That's what I would have done if I was a kid.
This was even better.
Yeah.
Is my wife said, Dash, help him make eggs. So help your buddy make some eggs. So he made his buddy eggs, fed his buddy eggs, and didn't eat any of them. You know what I mean?
It's a good friend.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there was a level of servitude in that, which I think is really powerful. And they say that, Jesus, when he was walking with his disciples would come alongside and they would say, why couldn't we cast out that one? Why couldn't we heal that situation? And Jesus said that one required prayer and fasting. And it's important that we recognize, whoa, what does that mean? He didn't demand his disciples to fast. He just said to do that skill is going to require this task.
Yeah, not just prayer, not just fasting. It's both
prayer and fasting.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a lesson to be taught there. And so this idea of fasting. So the next day, I asked Dash. I said, "Hey man, how was your fast? I mean, you made it 24 hours, man." And he goes, I made it longer than that. I said, really? Why? He goes, because I didn't eat dinner the night before either. I'm like, oh. Yeah, so he went dinner to dinner plus the, 10, 11 hours after that. And so for an 11-year-old to really be breaking that emotional addiction to food, that bond to food, that savory, desire to be pleasured in the tongue at 11, it really is a, he's not going to even be able to comprehend how powerful that skill set is.
I need some advice from Dash on how to do that.
Well, I'll bring him in next time and we'll get after it.
Quarantine and regulations and things are being lifted, right? And so things are opening up again. And during this time of my life, I fell off the wagon, right? And so I'm trying to get back on as far as like what I'm eating, being active, not having my body feel like it's falling apart. Like literally my body is falling apart. I had to go see Dr. Chapa in an emergency situation. Put me back together, Dr. Chapa. So I need some advice, and I love your advice, but Dash, he's just wise beyond his years. And I feel like there's some nuggets I can learn from him as well.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, he's a pretty clever little gem, so I'm thankful for him.
And he's been in studio before.
Yeah.
Let's bring him back.
Yeah, well, I will invite him back. I think that, going forward, all of those things, when we're willing to say no to food, we're changing our biochemistry. We're changing our mental state. And, having a healthy mental attitude towards the day, towards the life. In a book called Sleep Revolution, it talks about, like, if you find yourself having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, it could be a biochemical process, like the liver's not performing like it's supposed to, and so your body didn't do enough work during the night, and it needs extra support. So I would support your liver, or maybe the bowels are a little sluggish and backed up, and so you've got a couple days extra trash built up in your tissues that need to come out, right? But what if it's not? What if it's a mental issue? What if you wake up and you say, what a day, and then you go, oh my gosh, it's another day, and you're just like daunted by the task of, there's a monster at the end of this book, right? Like I don't know if I can get through another day. And you already are defeated before you even step foot out the bed or sit up in bed. Well, that has proven psychologically to literally sabotage a person's creative power and creative thinking. And there's two types. You have two commander-in-chiefs in your body and your brain, and one is called Mr. Defeat, and one is called Mr. Triumph. And Mr. Defeat is always there, and Mr. Triumph is always there to remind you of all the things that you're capable of whenever called upon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you only practice calling on Mr. Defeat, hearing Mr. Triumph over Mr. Defeat is going to be very challenging because they both like talking. And so you have to learn to only listen to Mr. Triumph, and he will always remind you of all the reasons you can do it, should do it, will do it, and will overcome the challenges and obstacles because you see them as opportunities, not as problems. But Mr. Defeat wants to show you all the times that you failed and all the experiences that led you off track and why you shouldn't do that, and that risky opportunity is not an opportunity. It's a train wreck waiting to happen. And depending on who you're listening to, those still small voices in your head determines your mental output and how you perceive your day. And so even if it's raining outside where you're at right now, and you have a positive attitude, it's still a sunny day. But if it's a sunny day outside and perfect and wonderful, but Mr. Defeat is a little bit stronger because maybe you listened to negative media the night before, maybe you've been hanging around negative friends, or maybe you've been eating poorly and your digestive tract is a wreck and your system is a little bit more irritated and irritable. Your buttons get pushed a little bit too easy. Guess what happens? Mr. Defeat just steps right in and reminds you, yeah, that's right, today's going to be a really junky day. And not only is it a rainy day outside, it's a stormy day outside. It's doom and gloom, and you just see that pessimistic attitude. And Mr. Triumph and Mr. Defeat are in you. Who are you going to feed? That's the one that succeeds. And so I make it a point to listen to or read positive information at night. It might be a proverb out of the Bible. It could be a chapter out of a book about leadership or a positive thinking. It could be something of health that just inspires me to be thankful that I know what I know about the knowledge base that I have. And how, or it might be just recapping like journaling about some success stories of the day. And because even though, I see miracles every day in my practice. I really do. I see, patients with hormone challenges go away. I see patients with digestive issues go away. I see issues with headaches that just melt away. And even though that everybody's on their path and on their journey, I can just recap those experiences, and that is an opportunity to remind Mr. Triumph of all the good that we're doing for our patients, and the world, and how good God's been to be our help and present help in these people's lives, and we can be a light to people and share ministry with them, and be in the trenches with them. And I cried with a patient yesterday just because she's got some real strong challenges going, and you're able to get in to people's lives and love them and serve them, and it may be the only place they come that's positive. And so we really work hard, and I think that I have to work extra hard at making sure that, I feed Mr. Triumph more than I feed Mr. Defeat, because one conscious thought stimulates 2,000 neurons in my brain, but one subconscious thought stimulates 4 billion neurons in your brain. That wasn't me chopping it. That was me just being
Chapa style.
Chapa style. That's right. And but think about that for a second. If one subconscious thought can stimulate 4 billion neurons, then who do we want to feed more, the subconscious or the conscious? And I would say the subconscious. And the way you do that is through the books you read, the CDs you listen to, and the people you associate with. And then that starts to change your perception on how you handle life's challenges. And so a positive mental state will help you sleep better. A good sleep experience will help you think more positively. And people go, I can't have a positive message. All right, Mr. Defeat, who are you feeding today?
That reminds me of like the movies and the cartoons as kids, where it's like you have the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder, and they both look exactly like you, and one's telling you, you can do it, or don't do this. It's not a good idea. And it's like, hey, you need to do it. Come on. And I don't know. Those were always really funny.
Well, and it is that same thing. And it makes you wonder, those cartoons are just metaphoric analogies of the processes biochemically and neurologically going on in and through every one of us.
Uh-huh.
You have 3 million more neurotransmitters in your digestive tract than you do in your brain. And neurotransmitters are neurological chemicals, brain chemicals, that allow your brain to process information, to learn new skills, to think certain thoughts, or to respond a certain way, or to handle tasks and challenges, or to organize activities. And people wonder why they struggle in a lot of those areas, and it's a lot of times because they have an irritated GI tract. So what I have always loved about the body is what part of the watch tells time, and the answer is all of it. You can't take out one piece of that watch and expect it to work. Well, what part of your body determines your health? All of it,
Mm-hmm.
And your digestive tract it can affect directly neurochemistry, brain chemistry, the way your body thinks, the way your body feels, the way your body responds or reacts. Whenever it comes to sleep, digestion can have a direct effect. I was talking to a buddy this morning, and he had nachos and tacos and cheese and stuff too late last night at a fast food joint, and he said he was up all night long, like with heartburn, indigestion, reflux, and bloated and gassy, and just felt miserable. And he said, man, I could barely get out of bed this morning. I feel like I got my hiney handed to me. So and I'm like, you did. You know what I mean? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
You know better.
Was he eating clean before, like for the most part, or?
No, sometimes he is, but no. In this case, he says he's gained the COVID-13.
Yeah, that's
and,
it.
And yeah, so
I'm on that COVID-20.
Yeah, no,
step your game up.
And so and that's just it, right? We've got to remind people that when famine happens, we eat famine foods. But one of the things that I've been trying to help people realize is that this was no famine. Crisis or no crisis, we acted like it was famineous times, and everybody bought up the carbs, the refined sugars, the processed food, and the additives and the alcohol but nobody was buying up the veggies. And so it wasn't like a hurricane that we were going to lose power, and shipping didn't shut down. So we still had adequate, produce coming in every day. And there's obviously talk of this, that, and the other, of shortages here and there or whatever. But
I think everybody was like we're gonna get to a place where we can't leave our house, and everyone's gonna get sick, and obviously, thankfully, that was not the case. And so there was shipping and everything kept going.
That's right,
kept going strong.
And that was one of my biggest things to stay ahead of the curve, and going through this process is how am I gonna navigate if I don't have shipping? Like if I don't have a bottle of Congoplex to give you, or Imuplex to give you, or some of my antiviral support to give you, then it's going to be harder to help you.
I know what you would have done.
I mean,
you would have started opening the pills.
Oh yeah,
and rationing it out. It's like everybody just take take 3 little sand.
It's a little nutrition is better than no nutrition.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just is the value of cellular health. I mean, what winds up happening when the body is malnourished, the cell systems begin to decline, and that burden of metabolic activity from whether it's bad food choices or environmental toxins begins to cause incomplete repair status of the cell structure. So like every day your cells are turning over. Every day there's new development transpiring at the transcription level, and then there's a reduced response time in that cell. So now when the brain tells that cell to do a job, it doesn't do it as well. It doesn't think as well. It doesn't act as well. It doesn't produce well. And then that leads to weaknesses in other aspects of the cell. The mitochondria now start to decline. Your detox pathways in the cell begin to decline. And then all of a sudden the cell loses its resilient transformation of power. It becomes weak, fragile, like a pruny grape. And who wants to eat pruny grapes, right? And when those cells begin to decline, they begin to not communicate with neighboring cells very well. I mean, think about it. When you feel bad, do you communicate well with your neighbors? Do you communicate well with your family? Are you more irritable and short-fused and ill-tempered? And so now that starts to change the genetic activation of the blueprint in the nucleus of the cell, the brain of the cell, and then now it's a we live in a world where we've got over 27,000 named diagnosed conditions based on this process of breakdown, and that's what's happening cellularly in the body. And sleep affects that, digestion affects that, your mental status affects that, and that's why we have to evaluate all aspects of you moving forward, and not just accept that what is. I know some situations are a little bit more severe, and it's harder to repair and recover from. But most of the time, if you develop it, you can undevelop it. If you have ADD symptoms, that could be an indicator. They did studies that kids that don't get good sleep at night, they have more ADD, ADH symptoms. If that continues, they start seeing the newest thing that I've been observing is oppositional defiant disorders. ODD.
What is that?
And it's basically they're defiant. So how do you? That one's relatively new in the last few years, and so it's a lot of times due to a high sugar diet, a high carb diet, the wrong processed, the wrong fat intake in the diet, and poor quality of lifestyle choices.
Could that affect adults too?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't adults throw temper tantrums?
A little bit.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I've been guilty. I hate to say, but at the end of the day, I'm thankful when God's grace is sufficient for me.
Yeah.
And He has mercy on me, and I'm more thankful when somebody that I truly care about that I responded negatively to works. We work it out. Because it's easy to just toss. In this day and age, we just we toss relationships out like toilet paper. Like we don't value it, but yet we should. Or we let the silliest things that could be worked out via a conversation derail us. And I think that again, a part of our mental state is our relationship status. Are we in good standings with our loved ones? Are we in good standings with our children? Are we in good standings with our extended family, our in-laws? Or do you feel like you have outlaws? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
and again, it goes back to Mr. Triumph, Mr. Defeat. Like, how do you perceive the world? Are you always looking through an empty half glass, not enough tank? Or do you look through a set of lenses that give people the benefit of the doubt and zero-based thinking? That is a place where you're willing to forgive 7 times 7 or 7 times 77 or whatever it was.
70 times 7. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Sometimes you just shouldn't ask the question if you don't want the answer, because if it requires more work, And I think that sometimes people are scared to kind of figure out their health situations because they know it's going to require work on their part. It's like, hey, it's going to require me to stop eating a certain way. Like, I'll make it happen. I'll just go on with life.
And this is the next stage. And this book just came over to me. It's from a pastor named John Piper, and it says, "Don't waste your life." I mean, I bought it just for the cover.
Let me see the cover
because it's just an awesome cover, and what a reminder. Don't waste your life.
There's the people out there. Their book sales soar once Dr. Chapa brings in a book and mentions this. Someone should buy it. This is the truth. If you are an author, you need to get the book to Dr. Chapa so he can come and plug it on here.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, the copies will sell.
Yeah, I mean, even if you never read it,
people will buy it. Even if they don't read it, people will buy it.
I mean, I had, as a matter of fact, when it did come in the mail, I had like 4 people say, "I want that. Can I have that book?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I guess I just bought it for the cover." I mean, I'll probably, I'll get to it. It's just, under, it's in line, if you will, of the other.
That is cool. This is a cool cover.
I mean, but it's a constant reminder, right? I mean, how easy do the foxes sneak in to try to spoil the vine? And if you find yourself, negative and bitter, that could transpire down the road into becoming depressed and oppressed and suppressed, and heaven forbid, you find yourself even in a worse state of being suicidal. And I've seen these patients come in, and they're broken beyond measure. They're on 8, 9, 10 psychiatric medications, which, by the way, you cannot predict the side effects and chemical reactions transpiring in the body with just 3 drugs, much less 8 or 9 or 10. And I remember, this particular patient, we have her down to 1 psychiatric medication, and she is no longer suicidal. And I remember the day, it was like tears in her eyes. She goes, "I don't even know how to say this because I've never said this in 25 years, that I'm not suicidal."
How does that make you feel dealing with cases like this? Because, it's giving back is a good feeling, right? Helping somebody is a good feeling. Whenever you have somebody come in your office like that, I mean, how does that make you feel? Like, what kind of?
If it was just for the one, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If it was just for that one, it would have all been worth it. Almost 20 years of practice, it would be worth it just for her, But yet, God is so good to give me literal miracles every day in my practice, and people are thriving. People are doing well, and it doesn't mean that these people are perfect. I mean, me and this particular patient, we got in a many of argumentative battles over how to eat, what we're going to eat, if we can do it, can we, because think about all the mental demons that she was fighting to say yes to doing one more thing, taking one more supplement, taking one more dose of a supplement, going to bed a little extra early, and getting involved in a social activity that isn't just work, where you got to change your space. I mean, Tony Robbins would always say, like, if you're having a cranky day, then you should go change your space. I find that I can just use different aromas, like peppermint oil is one of my favorite things to change my space. I can just rub it on my temples, rub it on my stomach, and it changes my neurological system. It brings a cooling over my body, and my body responds very well to that. You could go for a walk. If I'm overwhelmed, I can just throw a pencil on the ground. It doesn't belong there. Make myself pick up a piece of trash. It doesn't belong there. Control something in your environment.
Music too.
Music.
Yeah.
I mean, there's inspiration. God is speaking in many ways. Billboards, music, books, covers of books, an educational series, a friendly conversation. Pick up the phone, call. Be willing to humble yourself and ask for help, and recognize that you can't go through life alone. We weren't meant to be alone. God gave us, His our wives so that we're not alone, and we need we're relational people. We need to sharpen each other's axe, and we need to get in the trenches with each other and be able to call each other on the carpet or to lift each other out of the muck and mire. And what that does is that gives people a sense of hope and value where they can tackle one more day. They can get going one more day. And what happens is the same way that you got onto that path, we're going to take you off that path one step at a time. 1 degree of change will move you back into a realm where you become more able to think through the challenges of your day, and then your physiology will line up. You will naturally start sleeping better because you feel better. You will people don't realize that, like, if there are so many sleep dials that put you into a subconscious state to go through what we call a sleep cycle. A sleep cycle is an hour or 90-minute cycle, and it goes through several stages. And if you get 4 to 5 sleep cycles a night, that's 6 to 7.5 hours of clean sleeping, and you hit all of those layers of sleep, your body transposes yesterday's learning into long-term storage. It allows you to rest and recover. You get answers to prayers first thing in the morning when you're in the shower. Probably that's where mine come. And then all of a sudden, you start feeling like, wow, like, okay, this isn't as overwhelming. But to get your body into that subconscious state that where you're not watching the movie reel of your day play out, or waking up every couple hours and wondering why you're staring at the ceiling, or waking up in the middle of the night to pee and not realizing that that's not normal. Like, you should be able to sleep through the night and your body be able to function the next morning, holding your bladder for 8 hours or 9 hours, or in this case 6 to 7.5 hours. But if you miss those sleep cycles, your brain does not get the bath that it needs to detox and to cleanse itself. Your long-term memory storage doesn't get filled up because you have choppy information coming in. It's like having a bunch of clutter all over your desk and your trash is overflowing, and you got extra trash outside that hasn't been taken out in weeks, and now things are starting to stink and it's ugly. There's no curbside appeal. Well, that's exactly how your body feels. You've got to make sure that you look at all the things you can control so that you can allow your body to do what it was designed to do. God created it to function. He created it to heal. He created it to handle the stresses of life. He designed it to manage hormones at all stages, whether puberty or menopausal, whether you're pregnant or not pregnant, whether you're in a stressful event or not a stressful event. It's fascinating. It's all there, clear as crystal, and you don't have to know a thing about your biochemistry. Just know that junk in, junk out. If you put, poor quality food in, you're going to get poor quality results and productivity on the flip side. And so I think all life starts and stops at the cellular level, and nutrition is the fundamental backbone. If we eat well, we'll live well. All athletes eat well, and they say 80%, 90% of their success is what they put in through food. And I think it drives how you feel. I think people don't realize that you should at least have a 3-hour fast before bedtime. So if you are one of these, like I know in Brazil culture, I have patients that are from here, and they say that they don't eat dinner till 10:30
at night.
And I'm thinking, what time do they go to bed?
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder they. I mean, do they get? I'm like,
they're eating in bed.
Do they get siestas on the next day? Because I couldn't function that way.
Yeah.
And your brain needs to have blood to do its work. So if you put a big old hefty meal in your stomach at 10:30 at night, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then you go to bed at 11, your body hasn't had time to digest the food and to do its brain work. And then the first 3 hours of sleep is whenever your brain does a lot of its detoxification and cleansing, so that whenever it cleans the kitchen sink, it cleans the dishes so it can cook a meal, right? It doesn't want to cook in a dirty kitchen. And so what your brain is preparing for is to move yesterday's learned information out of short-term memory stores into long-term databases that you can recall effectively, efficiently, that's labeled appropriately, that you don't misplace. And so people that have learning issues and learning challenges have an issue because their body is either toxic, they got too much trash built up in their body, accumulative waste, or they're not going through what we call appropriate sleep hygiene measure. Give yourself that 3-hour break before bed and watch your body will sleep more effectively during the night. If you're dreaming, or if you're waking up to pee, or if you're just tossing and turning and staring at the ceiling, these are all indicators that your liver or your adrenal glands aren't performing at the level they need to perform at. There's stuff that Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center can help you with. If you wake up in the morning, you're more tired than when you went to bed. You see, fatigue is a sign that you're burned out. Tired is relieved with rest. You just need a good night of rest. Man, don't be upset if it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night and you're tired. That's normal. When the sun goes down, you should start getting sleepy, and you wind down from a hard day's work, and you go to bed, you wake up feeling like $1 million the next morning, and you got to tackle it again. And we do this process over and over and over again. And it is fascinating that most people that study the topic of sleep, and there's been, it's $1 billion industry probably in and of itself, just the sleep industry, but they don't know how the sleep process works. They see two camps. They see the camp of wakefulness, and they see the camp of sleepiness, and they literally win a battle, lose a battle, win a battle, lose a battle, and they do it voluntarily. It's almost like one just says, all right, you win, and then at the end of the day, your wake cycle turns off and says, all right, you win, and sleep kicks on and does its thing for a few hours, and it's back and forth, back and forth. And so if you, it should be as simple as that. But if you don't have the right tools, aka fuel sources, B vitamins, there's fat-soluble B vitamins that calm the body down. I call it a calm, cool energy. There's minerals that help to down-regulate these systems so that your body's going into that subconscious place where your body can heal, rest, and recover. If you're a light sleeper, that's an indication that your minerals are low. So people go, I wait till you have kids. Well, I got 4, and I sleep like a baby. And do they still wake me up at times? Yeah, they still wake me up at times. I mean, they're kids, right? It's not a perfect world. But here's what I can tell you, is that when my daughter comes downstairs, she doesn't say, I can't sleep. She goes, I need the Mintran. I need the Sleep Force.
She already knows.
I need the Rest Force.
The answers.
I need the Tranquinol. That's right. And so we're teaching our kids what to do when these types of things happen so that they're always ahead of the game. And so when they're stressed out, hey, you look like you're about to have a temper tantrum, or you're a little cranky today. Here's some Nevaton, and I'm using God's tools, God's herbs, God's nutrients to drive physiologic processes in the body, and we help patients go through these processes too. And people just need options to navigate the terrain. If you're sick, do this. If you've got belly pain, do this. If you got a headache, do this. If you have sleep issues, do this. I mean, and even if you think about it, the power of words. I love my pastor. He's just a master of words. He loves writing poetry and poems, and he organizes his thoughts extraordinarily well. I always like to say, I would go up to him after service and say, hey, can I take a picture of your notes? Because I like his organizational thought patterns. And to be a master of words, I think that if you look at, the type of material you put in your body mentally is mental vitamins. They're word vitamins. So if you put in a bunch of negativity, why would you ever expect any different? If you put bad fuel in to your biochemistry, you're going to get bad productivity. If you put bad thinking in, you're going to get bad, thinking. And so it just makes logical sense. And I think that when people start breaking it down that way, they start realizing, hey, I am more capable than I give myself credit for because I've been feeding Mr. Defeat for too long. So hopefully after today's show, you'll walk away from this and say, you know what? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am transformed by the renewing of my mind, and my hope can be restored. My faith can be restored by hearing the word of God. That, I think that we have to start recognizing and realizing, like, wow, there's a lot in God has given us a lot of authority and power to walk out our faith, to be sanctified daily, to continually work out our salvation so that we might, grow and mature in the fear and admiration of the Lord. And I think that's where wisdom comes from. I think then once we get wisdom, then we're able to draw the deep, things of the world, the questions of the world out, and we're able to understand things in a more unique way. And then we're able to go into conversations with our fellow brothers, and as iron sharpens iron, so shall one man sharpen another. We're able to work out, the challenges of life, and that is something I think we all need, and more importantly than ever, I find that as men have a tendency to just work, and never find another group of guys to sharpen the axe with. They might get together with their buddies and watch a fight night or something, and eat, have barbecue and whatever. But man, check the conversation. Is the conversation fruitful? Is the conversation glorifying to the Lord? Is the conversation challenging you to be a better father, a better husband, a friend, a better member of the body of Christ? Or is the conversation just superficial and surfacey and not really have any big depth? We're just afraid a lot of times to press in to hard conversation because nobody wants to get their, hands dirty. And I know this happens with ladies too. I'm not just singling out the guys, but I definitely see more often, the ladies organizing the date nights, and the ladies organizing family functions and stuff of that nature. And I think a lot of times, as men, especially, with what's going on in our current, state of affairs in the world, I think that we need to be not just, here, honey, take care of this for me. I think we need to be in the thinking process too, even when we're tired, even when we're needing, we've come home from a crazy day, and I think that's an important piece of my success is I don't ever find myself, thinking out my own thoughts by myself only. I always am checking my my thinking with my mentors and people that are what I would classify have a voice in my life.
As guys, usually you want to be tough, you want to be strong, and that's just the way it's been, right? So to talk about things that aren't comfortable, or to be like, hey, I'm struggling with this in my life, it might create an awkward situation, or at least feel like it's awkward, with another guy. And so I think that's sometimes the case. So like if you're at fight night, it's like you can't talk about that stuff maybe, but there's other situations where you can, be strategic about it, and let people know like this is what we're going to be doing, and we're just, iron sharpening iron, and just talking about things like, hey, how are you handling the situation with your family? Is there anything you're struggling with? It's just good to talk with people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
Like even having these health conversations, there's hundreds of thousands, and then there's thousands of views, almost at hundreds of thousands. Not yet. There's not hundreds of thousands on these videos. But if you continue to share, maybe there will be.
That's right.
Yeah, talking about health, nutrition, talking about things that are like-minded, and you can just encourage each other because nobody's perfect. I'm not, except for Dr. Chapa. And even he would probably say he's not, but we know the truth.
That's right. Well, it's interesting. So yesterday I'm talking with one of my patients, and he's telling me that, I'm busier now than I've ever been. And, he works at NASA, and he's serving his people. And he said that right now, especially and I didn't even realize this until yesterday. I know because of the elderly population coming in, they tell me that they are lonely, they're isolated. It's a sad place for them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy brought a whole nother piece of the pie. He goes, man, these young kids, these singles, when I say young, he says young kids, I mean he's talking people in their 25 to 35 zone, right? And he says, he goes, I'm on the phone every day or at lunch, working with 2 or 3, 4 guys a week, just helping them be connected. There is a sense of connectiveness that needs to transpire, and we don't realize that whenever we're alone, whether young or old or in between or whatever, loneliness is is a hard place to be.
Yeah.
And so, like, I see that Tammy was saying, life is all about relationships, and I just really, I value that, because our kids need friendships and relationships. They need relationships with their parents. We as parents need opportunities and to relationship with other people, and it's an ongoing work. And guys, relationships aren't easy either. Like a lot of times, the closer you get to people, the more you let people speak into your life, and the more people let you speak into their lives, it can sometimes get a little heated. And so you have to make sure that you're always, checking your ego at the door, edging God out. Are you edging God out? No. Let's check that at the door. We want to make sure we edge God in, so that we handle things from a biblical perspective and recognize that people aren't coming at us to just drop a bomb on us, or to sweep our legs out from under us or pull the rug out, but rather they're coming to push us to be better. They're pushing us as they can see what we can't see, because sometimes we can't see the pitfalls that we're about to jump right into because we're emotionally attached to the circumstances. And that emotion blinds us a lot of times. If, however, we are engaging in regular conversation, that mental fortitude begins to rise, and there's just sometimes a level of confidence you have when you've got 3 or 4 mentors in your back pocket that you can bounce ideas around with. And then your ability to, in the book, Change Your Habit, Change Your Lives, he talks about, like, you either get trained up by the hard knock life, or if you're fortunate, good parents, or you get fortunate and a mentor comes alongside you and, helps you navigate the terrain. And we need that. Like, every one of you, and that's what at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center we believe we are. We're mentors leading mentors, and we are mentoring the mentors. We are helping you as a mentor take care of your family, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your social circle by leading by example, leading from the front.
Yeah.
And that's where I think true leadership and value comes from in this conversation of, mental fortitude and mental attitude and getting a checkup from the neck up. And then I really do believe that, it starts to just trickle down into our physiology. And I have patients. I'll do these tests in the office, and I'll be able to figure out if they even love themselves. Some people have deserving issues. They don't feel like they deserve to be healthy. How sad place that is. If you don't deserve to be healthy, then they say, well, I showed up. Yeah, but again, you go conscious thought versus subconscious thought. If you're consciously saying, I'm going to show up 2,000 neurons, but if your subconscious thought says 4 billion neurons, no, you don't deserve it, who wins? Obviously.
The subconscious, the things
subconscious.
It's just there and you're not even thinking about it, but it's going on.
And nobody can, and because that's hard to see, it's kind of like walking by faith, not by sight. We have to appreciate, all of us, myself included, we don't know what we don't know. And we all have blind spots, hence why we call them blind spots. And we need people, we need books, we need CDs, we need thinking skills in order to rationalize out our blind spots and define those blind spots so that we can work on those blind spots. So we become lifelong learners, lifelong students. We just stay in the game of pressing forward. And if you're not where you want to be yet in your health, don't quit. I mean, and definitely don't quit to drugs. Like I'm telling you, the drugs are just painting over rust. You've got to get down and dirty, and you've got to start evaluating what kind of fuel sources are you putting into your mind as mental vitamins? What kind of biochemical vitamins and nutrients are you driving fuel through your cells with? If you're putting good things in, you're going to get good return. And so it's just a constant work to keep moving your health forward. What part of the watch tells time? All of it. What part of your health is your true health button? All of it. Your heart, your lungs, your liver, your spleen, your digestive tract, your brain, your eyes, all of it. Every part of it makes you who you are. And we want to keep pressing you to change, pressing you to recognize junk food when you see it, so that counterfeit foods will lead to one thing and one thing only, which is make-believe health. So we don't want to eat make-believe food. We want to eat real food, and so we can get real good results. We want to think good thoughts, and we want to learn how to think, because the hardest thing to do in life is to think. And we want you to think better so that you can get where you want to be down the road.
Here's a couple comments I want to read. This one's from Morris. He said, you have to make your ego fly low. And that's really good. Here's another good one. This is from Tracy. She said, limiting beliefs can be powerful strongholds. And I thought those are worth noting, and those are very good. Thank you for sharing.
And guys, totally, thank you for sharing. And I think that everybody knows, it's obvious that we're all in perilous times. Like, we all feel like, whoa, this is some really interesting world that we're living in. And no matter what's going on, just remember, like, we all need to be smiling more. We all need to find a way to embrace another, somehow connect to people.
You know what? I saw a gentleman who had a mask on, and it was his own face that he had, and he's a businessman, and this was some of his products. He's like, anybody be interested in this? And there was his face, the lower half, with a big smile on it. And it was the mask. It was the mask, like, he was covering, CDC guidelines and wherever he was, right? It may be required, whatever. But he had that on with a big old smile. And it makes a difference, because that's one thing that people were that I noticed, and people were saying as well. Like, you can't tell when someone's smiling. You can be smiling big, or just like,
That's right, but you're hiding behind that.
As you walk by in the
thing.
hall, or walk by in the grocery store, or you're outside, and you can't tell. You can't tell, and it's just kind of like a gloomy experience.
And what's really interesting, when you cover your mouth, it's natural just to not have an expression. And then no matter what you say, it sounds negative.
Yeah.
If you're on the phone, like right now, if I'm smiling when I'm talking, you can tell an inflection in my voice is different when I'm got that smile rocking, as opposed to like I'm pouty faced.
I'm so excited to be here today. It's a big difference.
Totally
if you're
different.
listening on 99.5 FM, you don't know what I'm saying. But if you're watching on Facebook, you got a glimpse of that.
That's right.
There's a
That's
difference.
Right. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're always looking for ways to push you and press you to be better, to stay better, and live better. One bite at a time today, one thought at a time, or one good night's sleep at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight at 6:30, we got our sleep and wellness mental talk. You got a little preview of that this morning. I hope that it was fantastic, lovely, and great. And I pray that you would share this with your friends, family, and loved one. It helps us get this message of hope to people all in our communities. And we all have social circles that could benefit from this information. I'm certain of it. And so tonight at 6:30, we have a great promo offer. Like, if you'd like to join in, call our office 281-554-8600. Visit our website, justlivewell.com, or 281-554-8600, and ask them about tonight's class. If you attend tonight's class in its entirety, you will get a opportunity with your next purchase of $25 or more to get a bottle of Mintran, compliments of living well, and your willingness to continue the learning process. Yes, we're bribing you, but that's sometimes necessary. But the reality is we believe in the information so much, and we want to give you a tool. We'll teach you how to use this product, Mintran, in your daily lives, in your nightly lives, and even during the night if you happen to have a weird late night life. And so remember, in the words of John Piper, don't waste your life. Remember in the words of David Schwartz, the magic of thinking big. In the conversations that we've had today, smile big everywhere you go. Let people know that you are a friendly companion in the trenches with them, and that you're maybe say a prayer with somebody today. Find a way to hug somebody. Like I don't know, man. I mean, I know we're supposed to be all social distancing, but golly, there's nothing like a heart-to-heart connection that needs to transpire. So God bless everybody. Let us know how we can serve you best, one bite at a time. God bless.
KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Right now it's 10:06. Thank you for taking the time to listen, whether that's on your mobile phone through the KHEA Radio app, going back and watching on YouTube like I did in Dr. Chapa's office yesterday as he was saving my life. I watched last week sitting there. And we were talking about,
hey, I know that guy.
I was like, this is great content. I should be taking notes. We were talking about Michael Jordan. And at least that's the part I was like, yes, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan and his mindset. But thank you for taking the time to tune in. Y'all be blessed.